Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's time once again for another woeful dose of Warner Brothers Discovery. 2023 has not been a good year for DC Studios. But let's be honest, DC Studios hasn't had a good year since 2019, which was the last year that DC actually had a movie that broke even and made a profit. And that movie was the first Shazam movie, not its sequel, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, that was the first of 4 DC Studios movies to be released theatrically this year and was a huge flop. 2023 is also the first year that DC Studios has released this many movies in a single year. But Shazam! Fury of the Gods wasn't as large of a flop as the second DC Studios movie to be released, The Flash, starring everyone's favorite wackadoodle actor Ezra Miller. That movie is currently sitting in first place in my Who Will Be the Biggest Flop video series because it may have lost more money than any other movie released so far this year. Then there was DC's third movie, a lower-budget superhero movie entitled Blue Beetle, which also flopped, but not to the same extent as The Flash. Blue Beetle is still playing in theaters, but probably not for that much longer, and its current global gross box office is sitting exactly where I had expected it to land. But guess what? There's still one more DC Studios movie coming in December. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, starring Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. And of these, Amber Heard is not particularly popular, given how it was proven in court last year that she had lied about allegations that she made against her former husband, Johnny Depp, as I had talked about in a video that I had released way back on June 1st, 2022. And after she lost, there were a lot of people who wanted her removed from the second Aquaman movie, with her scenes reshot with a different actress. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but there's apparently quite a bit more to what went on behind the scenes of the filming of this Aquaman sequel. On the same day, in mid-September, that Warner Brothers dropped the trailer for its $215 million movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, embarrassing documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit, creating a new headache for the studio behind the film. And I want to point out here that the $215 million production budget, as reported in this Variety article, is higher than earlier reports of $205 million. Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of documents from Heard's therapist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. The raw notes, scribbled on a legal pad, were part of last year's high-profile trial in which Depp largely prevailed. They describe a hostile Aquaman set where an allegedly intoxicated Jason Momoa dressed like Depp and pushed to have Heard booted from the role of aquatic superhero Mera. Now, I want to point out that this is what Amber Heard was saying, so I would suggest taking her comments with a grain of salt. Quote, Jason said he wanted me fired, unquote, the notes say. Quote, Jason drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny, has all the rings too, unquote. A rep for Momoa declined comment, but a DC spokesperson pushed back on Heard's characterization, saying, quote, Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, unquote. Others echoed that sentiment. Quote, Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone, but doesn't show up drunk to set, unquote, says an insider who was on the London set in 2021, adding that the two stars got along and were seen joking together. Quote, and he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He has always dressed in that bohemian style, unquote. Heard declined comment, but a source close to the actress confirmed that the notes refer to the Aquaman 2 set and reflect a session from December 27, 2021. Another source close to the actress says her lawyers fought the release of the therapy notes, which had been subpoenaed by Depp's attorneys during discovery. Momoa wasn't the only Aquaman principal to land in the crosshairs. The therapy session also painted a picture of Heard feeling unsupported by the film's director, James Wan, and treated like a pariah because of her high-profile legal battle with her ex-husband. And as far as I'm concerned, she brought that upon herself. Quote, "He raised his voice at me. I can't even post about Aquaman. Made it like it was my fault. I said, I'm sorry," unquote, says Hughes' notes in reference to Wan. Quote, "Nobody could take selfies with me on set given blackout," unquote. Wan declined to comment. The DC spokesperson said, quote, "James is known for treating members of his cast and crew with the utmost respect and for fostering a positive, collaborative environment on set. The Aquaman films were no exception," unquote. And here's a very interesting part of the Variety article. "And yet Heard was nearly fired," sources on both sides told Variety. Following Aquaman's release in 2018, the studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa and sent a letter to her attorney, Carl Austin, informing him of its decision. And former DC Films boss Walter Hamada testified in the defamation trial about the, quote, "issue of chemistry," unquote. Those sources underscored that the move to bounce Heard was unrelated to Depp and took place before he filed suit against the actress in 2019. Likewise, Momoa was not involved in the decision-making. But another source pushed back on the lack of chemistry narrative, noting that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before landing the role of Mera and beat out two other actresses who did a similar chemistry test, including Abby Lee. Now, just because she did a test doesn't mean that it was accurate, but here's where the article gets very juicy. Ultimately, the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a, quote, "scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down," unquote, if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel, says a source familiar with the behind-the-scenes battle. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward with Heard. However, Musk did not respond to a request for comment. This is highly plausible given Musk's behavior after he purchased the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. The drama is being rehashed at a time when DC Studios co-presidents James Gunn and Peter Safran are poised to close the book on the previous regime's superhero slate with the December 20th release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Since Warner Brothers chiefs Patty Abdi and Mike DeLuca joined the studio in June 2022, followed by Gunn and Safran's entrance 4 months later, the four have been saddled with DC duds they inherited, including this year's The Flash, which only earned $271 million worldwide, and Blue Beetle, which, as of the time I'm recording this video, has only earned $128 million worldwide. And they didn't even mention Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Still, the Aquaman sequel held promise considering that the character's first outing earned $1.15 billion worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing DC movie ever. But sources say the sequel has endured challenges outside of the Heard saga and was testing in the 60s before being recut in the summer of 2022. And despite the overhaul, the film continued to test in the 60s, prompting a new cut. One insider said, quote, "The movie is like this echo of regimes. It's the last remnant of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it," unquote. And you really can't blame people for that, but someone will have to take responsibility. Reshoots took place right up until this year's WGA strike in May. The on-set source disputes the idea that Aquaman 2 is troubled, noting that the film was on time, under budget, and needed only about a week of reshoots. Naturally, there are going to be conflicting claims in a situation like this. Like The Flash, Aquaman can't shake its lame duck trappings, with the DC Universe getting overhauled under new leadership, marking Warner Brothers Discovery's CEO David Zaslav's top priority. In fact, none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder for 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and 2017's Justice League, including Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, and Momoa, will reprise their roles in the new DC Universe in character. Momoa may return, just not as Aquaman. Sources say the actor has engaged in talks to play Lobo, either in the 2025 reboot Superman Legacy, written and directed by Gunn, or in a standalone film. In a confusing twist, Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller in both of the recent Suicide Squad movies, will remain as that character in the Gunn-Safran DC universe in next year's Max series Waller, and possibly in the new Superman tentpole. Another outlier is Gunn's Max series Peacemaker, which will be back for a second season with John Cena in the lead. This is the problem with this so-called reboot. Not all of the actors are actually being fully replaced. And this next section of the article helps to clarify something about the differences between how DC Studios is run as compared with Disney's Marvel Studios. Meanwhile, there has been some confusion on the series front about who is the ultimate gatekeeper. Unlike the Marvel-Disney relationship in which Marvel controls the creative process and Disney Plus merely releases the content, Max is creatively involved with the DC slate. Gunn and Safran don't enjoy the same autonomy as Marvel's Kevin Feige. A Max source says the collaboration between the DC team and Max executives Sarah Aubrey and Casey Bloys has been seamless, including on the upcoming series The Penguin, which was forced to shut down production after the WGA strike began, but is expected to resume shooting as soon as the actors' strike ends. Regardless, some on the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Bros. Within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. Quote, "The bottom line is they need to get DC to work whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, whether somebody else owns it," unquote, says Lightshed's Rich Greenfield, a Wall Street analyst and venture capitalist. For now, neither Momoa nor Heard will be promoting the film given the ongoing actors' strike. But if the strike ends soon, now that the WGA has come to terms, the stars will be junketing, making it difficult for Warner Bros. And Wan to avoid Heard's accusations that her role was significantly cut. According to sources, at least 2 Heard scenes were cut from Aquaman 2, an action sequence that found Mera fighting Black Manta, and a love scene with Momoa. And I do wonder if Momoa wanted to puke after filming that. Other evidence of friction is hiding in plain sight. This summer, Momoa unfollowed Heard on Instagram. One source says he even blocked Heard from following him. Now, as far as how well Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom may do at the box office, there are a lot of things currently working against its potential success. First, there's Amber Heard, who is very unpopular. Second, there's the fact that this is a Snyderverse movie and it's the last one, so it won't really have any meaning moving forward with James Gunn's and Peter Safran's DC reboot. And finally, third, I think a lot of people are becoming burned out on superhero movies because by the time this movie opens in theaters in December, it will be the 8th superhero movie to open in 2023. While the movie has a reported $215 million production budget, given that Warner Bros. Discovery hasn't spent much on advertising, its break-even point may be rather low, perhaps only around 2.25 times the production budget to take its meager marketing and other miscellaneous costs into account, as well as the 50% of gross ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves. So 2.25 times $215 million is roughly $483.8 million. Shazam! Fury of the Gods only earned around $132.2 million in global gross box office revenue. The Flash only earned $270.6 million, and Blue Beetle, as of the time that I'm recording this video, has only earned $128.1 million. Combined, those 3 movies have earned around $530.9 million, which means that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is going to need to earn almost as much as the combined box office from all 3 of the DC movies that preceded it just to break even. I don't know about those of you who are watching this video, but as far as I'm concerned, that's a rather tall order given how poorly DC movies have performed at the box office this year, which only lowers my expectations that this movie might break even. I will say though that if it can earn more than $270.6 million globally, that it will at least beat out how much money The Flash earned. We'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.